NDI November webinars. Today is our 6th webinar. We're real excited today. We're going to have Will Waters from NewTek. If you remember, we kicked this whole thing off with the godfather of NDI himself, Dr. Cross from NewTek. That was back on the 29th, and that was almost a 1-hour interview talking about the history, future, NDI, where it is, where it's going. A great way to kick off the show. Then Tuesday, we had Dan Mail on from Bird Dog, and he told us all about what they're doing with NDI. Now, they're doing NDI a little different than other people. They're not going the HX route. They're going the full NDI with their own hardware, with their own silicon. Very cool what they're doing. We had Rajan from Panasonic, and he told us all about how they were the first company of the major, consumer electronics companies to go all in on NDI. Next, we had Shane from Wirecast, and not only did we talk about Wirecast and NDI, but he actually showed off the really tight integration between Wirecast Teams and NDI, and we actually had a little bit of a workflow webinar there, so watch that show if you're going to be using Teams and NDI and Wirecast for sure. Then yesterday I had on George Herbert from Epiphan, and he told us all about the Pearl 2 and how it has NDI and how it integrates into NDI workflows. Today is Will, like I said, and tomorrow we're going to have Paul Richards from PTZ Optics, and he's going to tell us all about PTZ Optics. They were one of the first companies to add NDI firmware to their cameras. Very exciting, and they have some other NDI products we're going to talk about. And when Paul's on the show, it's probably going to be an hour and a half because me and Paul, we just talk forever. So before we get into the show, I want to talk about something else we're doing, and that's our giveaway. That's right. You can win a free IP Pro NDI webcam. Now, this is a webcam that is 4K, ePTZ, and NDI, a tremendous product. We're using it in our conference room now because one of the beautiful things about it is it's 4K, but you can zoom in on any HD region of interest. We've done a lot of shows on ePTZ and how that works, and this is an ePTZ 4K webcam with NDI, a $4.99 value. We'll give you the link at the end of the show how to find that. Now, today's show, the man himself, we got Will Waters on, and we're going to bring him in shortly. In fact, you know what? I know it's a little early to bring the guest in, but I love bringing Will in, plus I want to give Will the chance to show something off that he's done over at the home base. So let's bring Will in. Hey, Will, how are you?
I'm doing real well, thank you.
Cool. If you see me fiddling with this mic, it's because we have a bad jack that I'm trying to keep going.
Well, hey, that's all live production. There's always something coming at you.
Exactly. So one of the things we wanted to show off is Will is Mr. NewTek. Will does webinars and stuff like that, product manager. He's also very involved in the marketing of the products, product marketing. So Will is right now sitting at home in his home office, and I said, Will, what's going on there? And Will said, well, I could be anywhere you want. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm running the whole TriCaster on my end. So Will, before we go to what the good stuff is, show them how you're just sitting in front of a green screen if you could.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have everything to bring up, but let's just go ahead and bring that in. So that, just a standard green screen sitting behind with the camera set up front.
And now let's go with the magic of a TriCaster. Will, take it away and just walk us through all the cool stuff that you can do there.
There's, of course, many different things, being that the TriCaster is a live production, full, really live production software-driven system, giving us the ability to really go and do all kinds of things, from virtual sets to really being able to place you anywhere. Of course, I'm here at home. It's very nice to be able to pretty much have the ability to move in and around, or maybe even something that's a little closer. We're based out here in Texas, so might be something I should bring in to actually retract to.
This is Will going crazy, folks.
Yes, a little bit different on. Bring that down.
Look at that!
And see, here I am. Basically, kind of give me some beachfront property, with some different things going on. But the fact that I can do re-entry, bring different things in. Of course, we need, I think, to have NDI up on that monitor there behind me, don't we?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Mm-hmm.
And now, guys, bring me in with Will, too. Bring in the lower the third we have on the side. And let's just talk about all the things we have going on in this show, all via NDI. Will's got a complete NDI TriCaster system going over there. He's getting in lower thirds. He's got NDI on the screen in the background. I'm coming in NDI via the CX350 Panasonic camera. We have a camera over there that's the NewTek PTZ camera, which we'll be showing you, that's coming in NDI. We're coming in off of my laptop NDI. That's where we're putting the screen on the slide. So if you were going to try to do this production in a pre-TriCaster NDI world, we would both be even balder than we are now. It just wouldn't be possible. I hate to say it. And this was something that, you know, really, it was a breeze for both of us to set this up on both of our ends. And I forgot to mention that you're coming in via the talk show TriCaster, you know, Skype TX feature of the TC1 that we have you running on too. So let's go straight to that, because I want to kick off the show by talking about, you know, NDI, and you're the NDI guy, and I want to do a little walkthrough of NDI. Now, NewTek had NDI for a while, going back to, you know, 2016 you introduced it. But in 2017, you guys really went all in with the first, what I'm going to call all NDI TriCaster, and that was the TC1. So walk us through. I'm sure there had to be some internal debates about, do we go all NDI? You know, was this? Where do we go? You know, 16 4K NDI inputs. You guys went crazy. Talk about the TC1, because it really wasn't. It wasn't an upgrade to a TriCaster. It was really a rebuilding, a re-imaging of a TriCaster from the ground up, based on the NDI architecture.
Yes, and that was the great thing about it. You know, a long time ago at NewTek, we were looking at what the future would be, like the next generation of production. And that happened to be on computers, it happened to be on networks, and then of course it was all driven by software. And that's really where a device like the TriCaster shows its value and its flexibility. So when NDI was launched to the world, it gave us an opportunity to really take compute components, the things that were available that we all are familiar with from the computers that we use every day, and be able to bring live production into that. And NDI being the flexible standard, and more than just a protocol, it's discovery, it's registration, it's a full SDK that allows all these people that to be able to bring new things in. It allows for flexibility in ways that you know, when the source device knows what's happening downstream and how it's being used, there's a lot of things that we can start to do with that. So the TriCaster TC1, as you spoke of, was really that first all-in to this IP workflow. But of course, it's not just the transport, it's that flexibility that really is what drives the value there.
And then last year, you guys didn't go all in. You went NDI only with the TC Mini 4K. So we have this over here. If you could get that camera going, I want to let people see what we have over here with this product. So this is it. It comes with the converter box we'll go to, but I got to point this out. You know, this product has no jacks on it. It's just got networking jacks. So in fact, you know what? Let's bring this up on the top slide there, Adam. We can really show off. We have NDI. So what you basically do is you take your HDMI camera into your Spark Plus HDMI. This cable goes directly into NDI 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's a direct attach NDI solution. You can also use it to bridge into a larger NDI facility if you want, but this really embraced NDI as a complete substitute for old-fashioned connectivity. And when you talk about flexibility, this thing's a powerhouse. I really, you know, you can do stuff on this that a TC460 couldn't do, and plus 4K. I mean, it's amazing how, as the computers get stronger, because this is really software based, it just unleashes more and more power, performance, and features.
Yes, you're exactly right. You know, one thing about that, when we brought the TriCaster Mini 4K, as you have there, it's like we really thought about, well, what is that I/O interface? You know, where do you have the most flexibility? And realizing that if everything always has to be in the same device, you actually do limit yourself. So if you think of being in any facility and you want to be able to move that I/O around and then, of course, distribute it through your network, it's best to have that I/O actually at the camera or that interface that is generating the source, and then of course taking the flexibility of the network to distribute that for contribution or for production availability across your network.
Yeah, and I know there are people who have TriCaster systems who have looking at they needed to add some I, some O, some other stuff to another room. They're just throwing one of these in another room, and it's like a satellite studio to their bigger TriCaster. When you think about, you know, a full TC1, you know, max is a $40,000 investment. That's great. You get all that power. But now I can put another studio and I put this TriCaster Mini in it, and it's really like I have two Maxes there because everything sees everything and everything lights up. It's just incredible.
Well, that's the thing. You know, when we look at and we talk to our customers, there's always something, there's a message, it's a story that needs to be told. and having the capabilities to be able to really increase that content output that you're working with. Of course, you know, the CDNs that are out there, the YouTubes, the Facebook, they're always hungry for that next thing. Like, let's have that next scroll, that next video that comes through. Being able to generate that content means that you need to have the flexibility to move that, capture that, make that story, and make it told, and then deliver that out as fast and quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about the product that just came out this year, the TriCaster TC2 Elite. Now, the Elite really picks up where the TC1 left off. You've gone back to things that customers have wanted. We love NDI, but some people still want spigots. They want inputs and outputs. You've got that in that, you know, you've got the redundancy, but you've also added some really cool features, especially when it came to Teams and Zoom and integration of, you know, AV conferencing type stuff, which was perfect. But I want you to not just talk about those features, but how NDI leverages those capabilities.
Sure. Well, the TriCaster 2 Elite, I mean, it's done fantastically well for us. We're really proud of it. But to your point, there needs to be it's all about flexibility. So when we brought that product to market, we started looking around and say, okay, we are no longer in a world where we only have one connection type, whether that's SDI, NDI, SRT, RTMP, RTSP. I mean, there's a whole bunch of alphabet soup to get into on that, right? So the TriCaster 2 Elite was really brought to market as a product that allows for as much flexibility on input and ingest of sources, being able to manipulate those together and then, of course, deliver that out. And then we had the pandemic, you know, the thing that we're all still dealing with, which ultimately made us realize, and this is something we were working on in the background, but then it's just like, well, wait a minute. If we come in and we're already starting to do these different things where we need to have this video capability, there's a remote production aspect of it, we need to have guests come in, we also need to be able to work with ourselves in the production room to be able to bring that together. And that's how Live Call Connect was born, because we do at NewTek work with Microsoft very closely, as we're doing right now with Skype and TX. And Microsoft delivered NDI output from Teams. So those conversations actually allowed us to generate the capability to bring a lot of these applications directly into the live production system so that we can interface those together, of course, delivering the most flexible interface for live video production. And again, it's based on software. So as things adjust, we can be agile to that, giving those that are in use of TriCaster really the most flexibility for the longest time possible.
So, like, just a brief explanation, when we bring people in through Teams here, we have a little like Nook Dell computer that we run the Teams on, then we bring that in NDI into our TriCaster TC1. In the TC2E, you actually run Teams on the TriCaster, and it does all this parsing so that you can actually, each person on the call can become an input that I can then produce and put them anywhere on the screen I want.
You're absolutely correct. So, you know, there are pros and cons, or, you know, differences per reference of workflow, depending on what is you look for. I mean, what you're describing there, having Teams running separately and having those individual NDI streams, that is absolutely a fantastic way to go about it. What you get in Live Call Connect is an integrated function that also allows for interfacing with those virtual meeting room applications, or we like to call them VMRs, that don't have native NDI integration necessarily built in today. Yet.
I made a little post.
Well, I can't talk future development, but yet.
No, I made a post on LinkedIn complimenting Microsoft and you guys working together. And sure enough, one of the people who replied was one of the product development people over at Zoom and said, we're not that far behind. All right, now I want to jump over to converters. Now, the converters came out, you know, those were really your first NDI products under that not a TriCaster. And the early converters had antennas because they were Wi-Fi as well. And talk a little about those products, because we don't have converters with Wi-Fi anymore. So what worked, what didn't work? Why did we change our mind on that?
So I don't know if it was so much change of mind as, you know, progression or along a stage. When we looked at, of course, you know, we delivered NDI out to the marketplace, and it has become an absolute fantastic adoption over the years that the NDI has been in the market. But hardware takes time to develop. Things like FPGAs and hardware encoders, and a lot of technical stuff has to go into bringing those things together. And so what we looked at the market at the time was that, well, wait a minute. If we have a protocol and we have all these different things, we can adjust the protocol to something that may be good in a chipset that's freely available. And so this is what our high efficiency version of NDI, or sometimes people call it NDI HX, was born. Now, a few different things came on that. As you mentioned, we had the Connect Spark, which is a fantastic device that allowed us to take an HDMI or SDI connection and potentially even deliver it over a selective bandwidth network like Wi-Fi. The challenge I think that we came into, though, is that Wi-Fi is not a standard network around the planet.
Everyone's is different, right?
Everyone's is different. That's exactly right. And one of the things that became very troublesome to some customers, like we had a lot of customers that loved it and was working with it so great, but we also come to find out, well, okay, do you have a network that's running on 5G and then N and wireless AC, and again, we're getting into alphabet soup. So ultimately, once we had the new designs or the native hardware in the chipset for NDI, that kind of eclipsed what was going on with what we had with the Connect Spark. Now, that doesn't mean that in the future a wireless variant isn't possible or won't ever be there. It was just for that time period that we started to see a bit of a wane in sales, and people were looking at something that was, our customers really wanted a little bit more connectivity and capability there. So the choice was made to really kind of sunset that product and then set us up for some things in the future that will be, I think, we don't just look to have the next evolution of product here at NewTek. We really want to tell a story and give our customers the tools to be able to leapfrog that flexibility.
So then last year, it's 2019, not 20, you came out with the Spark Plus line. And those were a little bit, they didn't have the Wi-Fi, but they're certainly more robust, the units could handle 4K. They could go up to 4K P60. It was a different product line that was really tethered or wired. And I just wanted to mention that Spark Plus is now $399 on sale. But the really big news is in this March, you guys unleashed Decode, which I think, encoding was how we originally sold these products. Put them next to a camera, hook up to a camera, have your HDMI or SDI out, convert it to NDI, plug it into any network jack, and boom, everything's connected together. Awesome, fantastic. But from the very first discussions I had with Dr. Cross, Decode was as big a part of the roadmap as encode. And now the encoders that come with your TriCaster are both encode and decode. I think that's real important because a lot of people, like in House of Worship, you have an overflow room a lot. This is a great way to bring that video into the overflow room over your network, hook up the decode mode, and then just plug a TV in, and now HDMI television, you've got a monitor that's filling another room of people.
Exactly. I mean, Decode it's a challenging thing to do because you have to think about all the different sizes of monitors out there, all the different frame rates that you're working in. And, hey, those are technical challenges for those like us here at NewTek to work out. So that took a little bit longer to get into the marketplace, but now that we have it here, exactly like you said, it allows for the flexibility even on the delivery side, especially in a facility. You can connect that up to the NDI network, and with something like even the free capability that happens to be in Studio Monitor, you can route your sources and have that come up and come down, and being able to utilize that in an overflow scenario, in a delivery scenario, get that message to where you need it to be, whether it's live video, whether it's a digital signage, your message can get out there and get to wherever that network can reach.
Cool. Now we're going to go over to these bad boys right over here, and I think we have a camera angle we can zoom in on them. These are the NewTek PTZ cameras. Now these two are shipping right now. This is the original PTZ1, your first camera, which was a HD, NDI HX camera. This is the 4K. We're going to get into that one as well. We're going to talk about the family, and then there's a new one coming also. But we want to give these boys a little bit of their own little showtime to star. So there you go. We love them. They're great products. We're actually have an NDI. It's like it's looking at himself. So here's one of these, focused in on one of these. It cracks me up all the time. So let's talk about July 2017. You guys come out with your first camera, the PTZ1 camera, 20X camera. And I think it's real important because we're going to have Paul Richards from PTZ Optics on tomorrow. They were the first company to really get NDI working with their cameras, but it wasn't as smooth as we all hoped. And I think you guys coming out with a camera that was designed to work with that from the beginning as NDI, I think it let everyone else be a little bit more patient with some of the bumps we were hitting in the road in those early days of NDI PTZ.
That's exactly right, and sometimes it's one of those things where when you're moving into a particular vision into the future, you do have to have a reference point. And the NewTek, the NDI HX PTZ1 was a great product for that. As you said, delivering a 20x zoom, but really the standpoint there is that it was really intended to have that single connection, power, control, and of course audio and video signals and tally return. Yep. All on that single network cable.
Very cool. And then last year you came out with the 4K, end of last year, early this year. Tremendous product, under $5,000, 4K UHD. Great seller right here. It amazes me how much bigger the camera gets when you got to get 4K, but we all understand there's more electronics and there's a lot bigger lens on that. And then you just announced the camera that's coming, which is the PTZ2 PTZ. Now, that camera is not available yet, but I understand that camera was part of as much supply chain as it was the future of products.
Yes, I mean, admittedly, that availability is important, and we want to make sure that we have the ability to bring products to our customers. So we are very, very proud of the NDI HX PTZ2. Now this is the next version. It does eclipse the PTZ1. Very similar on the specs. Again, that 20x zoom that you're able to get in there. But we took the opportunity. We did have to change just some sourcing supply, but we took the opportunity to make some enhancements there. We do have the latest features now of NDI 4.0 that are available within the PTZ2 camera. And so that's really, again, taking advantage of the latest things that we can do in the NDI world.
And we're going to move into software a little bit, and I want to talk about the most important software you have, which is there are tens of thousands of PTZ cameras deployed throughout the world that actually have H.264 that can be upgraded to NDI by just upgrading the firmware. So Panasonic, PTZ Optics that we talked about before, Minray, there's just tons of Marshall, there's so many. And one of the things Dr. Cross mentioned to kick off the show was that the sales were up 500%. Year to year of the PTZ firmware for cameras. I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't ask you, I was going to be at the pre-show. About how many licenses of NDI for PTZ cameras have sold so far, either this year or since the beginning?
I don't know if I don't have that number right off the top of my head because it kind of breaks down with licensing and royalty agreements and some various things that we have independent all there. But I can tell you that from a percentage standpoint, just like Dr. Cross mentioned, it has more than exceeded our expectations, and I think a lot of that has to do with the current situation that we're in. Is that we were on a path to move from baseband or single connection devices in production to our network for that fabric. And what has happened, I think, over this past year is just accelerated us on that course. And we are into significant, it's just, I can't, it would actually be inappropriate for me to even give you a guess of how much that is moving on to the next week because, I would be wrong about it. My expectations for what happened even a month ago versus what we've even seen since the beginning of November has been incredible.
Now, you brought up NDI 4.0. My slide says NDI HX2. I understand nomenclature really doesn't matter, but the biggest thing that I looked at that I thought was really exciting is when you made that jump, you tightened things up, you got the latencies down so that, early on we used to see a really big difference between full NDI and HX. With the 4.0 HX2, we don't anymore. And also, what I'm really excited about, and I want to know when you think we'll see the first products with it, is you're going to have H.265, which bandwidth matters everywhere when you're working on stuff like that. So even when you're working on your local network and your NDI, you can still have enough devices that you go into bandwidth errors. And what I love about going to H.265 is it's half the bandwidth. So we could basically double the amount of devices in our studio and not have our network get overrun with bandwidth considerations.
Yes, exactly. Now, the camera that you have right there on your desk, the PTZ UHD, does take advantage when you're running in 4K P60 mode of H.265 and HEVC. So we already have the template available in the marketplace, and this is part of what we have those that are developing on NDI within NDI HX, does give you the ability, and this is one of the versioning things that we have along with NDI. Yes, I get into versions and, well, what does that really mean to the user? Well, it means that those that are developing, those vendors that are utilizing NDI, we can bring more and more capabilities into the development kit so that they can take advantage of that for the products that they're releasing to the marketplace. Now, assuming the hardware can handle that.
Yeah.
That is an important distinction.
I wanted to mention is that when we say firmware upgrades, that's true, but it's really the further back you go with your camera, the more that becomes potentially a problem. But for the most part, you can always get a camera 2 years ago is going to be fine. It seems to be, when you get over 2 years, all bets can be off, and a current camera isn't going to be a problem. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is NDI software in general. But before we get to that NDI software, I want to for a moment talk about, because we're here to talk about NewTek and the NewTek products, but the truth of the matter is all the universe of NDI customers who are out there, you work with them too, correct? You're part of the team that makes sure it helps them get over the hump sometimes also when they're running into problems.
All day, I mean, I wear a couple different hats here, and NDI. Well, I think I bleed NewTek blue is what is the joke internally. But NDI and NewTek, I mean, it was born here. NDI was born here, and it would continue. Like all of our products utilize it, and so yes, interoperability with workflows is incredibly important. So yeah, very engaged in the NDI community from that standpoint.
So now we want to talk about the free NDI software that you guys have, and we're going to talk about all the software, but before we get into that, I want to say that, everyone says NDI NewTek. I want to make sure people understand NDI is a global, universal standard. So vMix, OBS, Wirecast, all take advantage of NDI. Folks like Epiphan who make hardware switchers are buying in and joining the party. Panasonic has switchers, a mixer that's actually a TriCaster built into a mixer control surface, PTZ controller. So very cool stuff. I want to talk about the free tools, and I don't want you to go into all of them, but I want to stress to everyone that for free download, you can get the toolkit, which includes NDI Studio Monitor, Scan Converter, Virtual Input, the VLC plugin is Windows only, Access Manager, Test Patterns for Windows only, and then you also have NDI Connect available for free, the basic unit. Talk about that free tool set and how important it is to NewTek to have that free tool set available to everyone in the world who wants to do live streaming with NDI.
Yeah, well, the NDI tools are really it's the glue in the package that allows anyone to really get started with NDI anytime they like. So you can take, like you said, the VLC plugin, VLC Video LAN client. There is a very popular open source media player. You can basically take whatever that plays and deliver that NDI onto your network. You can receive it with Studio Monitor. You can start doing testing around the network. You can see what you like on that. You can take your scan converter or what's on your screen and then deliver that into a receiving device for streaming. Yep. And a lot of people don't know, you can take that webcam that's right on the camera and have a separate NDI stream utilizing that free tool. So that gives you some really cool capabilities if you're doing teaching or streaming or for gaming and various things. So it's a whole toolkit that's really, it glues together so many different little places within the workflow that is just very necessary, whether you're a consumer or you're at the highest levels of professional broadcast.
So you mentioned something, and I just want to harp on it, and this came out of nowhere, but I'm very involved with education, and I'm on my local board of ed. If I have Scan Converter running on a computer, and I had like OBS as my streaming to go to my students, I could actually have my webcam and my PowerPoint that was on my screen both be available to the stream from the same laptop. I wouldn't need two different laptops.
That's correct. The capabilities within the free tools give you two individual NDI streams. One is the media device, the webcam, and another with either the full screen or a region of interest that you specify.
Cool. And now talk about Connect and Connect Pro. And really what I'd like you to do is explain to people why Connect Pro is worth paying for.
So Connect is a software program that allows you to utilize capture cards, whether they're Blackmagic, Magewell, or Matrox. There's all kinds of capture cards, of course, that are out there and available. So the free version gives you two channels with two basically stereo or two channels of audio that just gets NDI onto the network. The Connect Pro software takes that into a lot more feature set that you have. For instance, if you want to expand out to 8 audio sources, you need 4 simultaneous NDI streams. There's also an IP receiver that comes a part of Connect Pro. If you want to take an RTSP feed and translate that to NDI, and a whole list of others that are available in the IP reading. You also get some waveform monitors and some other professional tools that, those that are in professional video, I find very, very handy.
And then NDI Telestrator is cool because that we all know John Madden and doing sports, but I think it's also great for education and teaching because you can actually draw on the screen as you're making your points or instructing or teaching or using it. So that's a really cool one also.
That is a cool one. I don't know that there's a lot of people that get into drawing on the screen that we find that it's popular in sports, but I think there's a lot of people that just don't think about the fact that, oh yeah, I can take that video and just start to interact with it in that way.
All right, and now we want to flip, and I want to talk about some specific software, and one that I really love. NDI HERE camera for iOS. Now this is an Android, so I can't use this yet. So the first thing I'm telling you is this is not a request. I'm ordering you. Give me an Android version of this. But I love this software because basically it lets any camera be used, any cell phone or an iPad be used, any iPhone or a cell phone or an iPad be used as a camera that could be a source for a TriCaster, vMix, any NDI aware mixer.
Yes, it's a really fantastic access. I mean, the cameras that are on the iPhone today are phenomenal. And then you can be able to pretty much bring that directly into your NDI receiver. Of course, TriCaster gives you the capability to bring multiple ones of those in. You can do the same thing with any other NDI receiving device on that. But the camera, it's really important. I mean, we're all walking around with this wonderfully amazing device in our pocket. Let's take advantage of it. And I hear you loud and clear on the Android. Android has a huge user base. We're definitely interested in that. I just can't talk to you about when or where or anything about that, but it's a very well received note.
Cool.
I'm listening.
And then the other thing is that I know the other thing people want to be able to do is just not only use the camera of their phone, but they want to take whatever's on their phone and be able to send that into their TriCaster, especially like the younger kids who are into the TikTok and the stuff like that, to be able to show that. So that's my 2 feature requests over there.
Well, NDI HERE capture is available for the iPhone today. So you can do basically bring whatever on your screen according to what is available. I mean, Apple does define what can be broadcast there. But yeah, that is a separate application, and that works via NDI HERE as well.
Awesome, very cool. Now I want to talk about switching gears a little bit. I love how NDI is going to impact the world of post-production and editing. And there's a lot of different ways. You guys have NDI for Adobe Cloud, which just basically says I'm a news group or a newsroom and I'm cutting something. I don't have to wait for it to render. I can hit the space bar and my TriCaster, my vMix can see it and I can put it right to air. Love that feature. Then you've also got the feature now where I can import the files, the ISO files that I'm recording on my TriCaster or through Connect Pro on a separate computer, and I can bring those into Adobe and instantly start editing. So that's really great. Talk to me a little about your partnership with Adobe.
Yeah, well, Adobe, of course, I mean, they're a great, they make great production, post-production, and creative tools. And what we saw, especially speaking to customers, is that they're creating all of this content. There's all these things going on, but there's a few things that were a bit challenging. One is that when you have to take a certain monitor that's out of the edit bay, and you have to get the certain people to that, that actually takes time out of your day. And so for review and approval, what we saw that if you can take that space bar, it's more than just delivering it directly live to air. Sometimes it's like, hey, they got the editor here. Let me just hit the space bar, pick up the NDI feed upstairs or over in the cubicle for someone to review this. It actually saves time you walking down the hallway. And then, of course, multi-cam editing.
I could be in my studio,
Yes.
especially with social distancing now, working, and I could be using one of these on decode mode so that I could have my director or producer on the other side of the building in a TV watching what I'm doing using the decode power of the Spark Plus.
yeah, absolutely. And that kind of gets that over the shoulder. I mean, how many editors love having their producer right over their shoulder? So, I mean, I won't talk too much of that, but if you can get them out of the room, at least maybe you can sneak an extra donut in between the edits. But it's a really, it gives you flexibility. I mean, ultimately that's what we're driving towards, and that's the power of the network, really.
Yeah.
For the other part of this is something that we released earlier, or late last year, was the ability to actually do the multicam edits as well. So in Premiere specifically, with NDI 4.0 and NDI recording, the plugin for Adobe Premiere allows you to use all the timestamps that are laid out in the NDI stream itself and bring those into an Adobe Premiere project and have those line up within your project so that you can do appropriate multicam editing. Saves a tremendous amount of time in the post-production process.
That is awesome. That is a great feature that was on my feature request list, so thank you for delivering that one as well. Now we want to go to my favorite part of the show, where we get Will in really hot water, little pun there, Will Waters, on the NDI future, what's coming. So I have 3 things I want to talk about now, and I want to bring them all up because they kind of intertwine. I want to talk about, VizRT, and can we get some VizRT level kind of cool graphics for TriCasters? Those, they're not virtual reality, but like kind of augmented reality type graphics. Like to know about, we know where the world's going. The cloud's everywhere, and I'm sure there's an NDI cloud thought process, if not a roadmap over there. And then also, circling full stream back is, if there's going to be an NDI cloud, I could foresee a world where there's I/O devices that really aren't TriCasters. They're more like endpoints for getting access to the cloud, where maybe you have 3 or 4 cameras plugged into it and it goes up to the cloud, and then you do your editing on the cloud, or you're mixing on the cloud. So I've already talked about a whole bunch of things that you will not deny or say are existing, but I'd like to just talk about that as an overview, where you think the future of NDI and NewTek is going.
Absolutely. Well, I think that what has happened in this past year, we've had years of what we were seeing and happening and movement within the industry kind of be compressed into a few months. And whatever we consider the new normal, it's going to be in situations where you're not necessarily going to need or even be desirous of having all your content producers in the same physical room. And there's a lot of other advantages beyond that. So these things that you're describing, it's a natural path. I mean, ultimately, if we look at outside of NDI, the whole transition to IP in the broadcast and AV space has been about flexibility. It's been about getting to virtualization, to where the customer, the end user, is paying for what they need when they need it, and you can scale that up and down without having to have these investments. We talk in the business side a lot about future-proofing, and the only way to truly future-proof is to really have computers, have networks, and have all that driven by software, because these 3 things are agnostic to what travels across them. And we can build bigger and more powerful devices and environments, and ultimately architecture that really gets us to that point. So I think that you're right on with a few of those things. But of course, I can't speak to specifics on any of that future development. But it's a really, truly exciting time. Despite what we have going on, in the general the frustration, but for video production, it is an amazing time of innovation, and we are really moving very, very quickly on some of these things that we didn't think we were going to see maybe for 10 years.
Yeah,
might be a lot shorter than that.
Dr. Cross, when I was talking to him, said succinctly, he said, the pandemic forced us to jump 5 years ahead. And it brought that up. And, it's crazy because I'm doing this show, and I'm doing this show with you, and we've been doing these shows for 2 weeks. You're the 5th or 6th guest we've had on. And the one thing I got to say is I think our remote productions, bringing remote guests, look a lot better than a lot of the stuff that I'm going to call looks like crap on network TV, late night TV, the news, the election, the what people were doing, about covering the pandemic. And I know everyone's got to make these remote workflows work, but guys like you and me, we've been in the trenches doing this for years, and I think we've got a huge leg up. And IP's here, and it's only going to get stronger. We don't even talk about SRT. That's a whole nother level of letting different places connect to each other for remote workflows. So I got to say that I don't think we get through this pandemic from a video production point of view if NDI hadn't been unleashed 4 years ago. And that's a tribute to Dr. Cross, tribute to everyone on the NewTek team, because you guys didn't show it. It went from theory to reality. And that reality got forced upon all of us because of what the pandemic did to television production.
Yes, I mean it's one of those things where necessity is the mother of invention, really. But we there's a lot of things that we could do, and we have been doing for some time. But I think that there was just a general sense within the industry of just like, well, yeah, we're going to be cautious. We want to make sure we're making the right decisions and doing different things. And then something like this happens that none of us foresaw. That really kind of says, well, hey, we can do this. And then people get used to the concept, and then they say, oh, this is actually, I can do so much more with it, or I have the flexibility, or maybe I can lower my T&E costs for getting those producers where to a specific place. Like, there are benefits that are coming out of all of this, and we're, like I said, it's a really exciting time from a technological standpoint to see where we're going to be going.
It is, and what's really exciting is a great segue is NDI November. Tomorrow wraps up our NDI November, 2 weeks of nothing but NDI technology and product coverage, and we're doing a giveaway. We're giving away a Huddle Cam NDI webcam. Now, I happen to use that in my conference room. I love this product. It's a 4K EPTZ region of interest Huddle Cam that is also NDI. So if we put that in the conference room, I can actually bring it in here, and I may do that one day through the NDI and just say, let's have some people sit in our conference room and bring them into the show, because I love what we're doing with remote productions. But this is the part of the show, Will, it's the wrap up where I just say, Will, 1 or 2 minutes, the floor is yours. Talk about whatever you want to talk about to wrap up the show.
Oh, well, that's so much open-ended. I think it just, for what we were just talking about here, it's just like, there are so many different things that are happening, and the future is very bright, for those doing video production. As we see, everyone has devices that can have moving pictures. You can bring people individually curated content directly to them. And all that means is that those that are producing video, those that are actually creative and have the ability to tell that story around what is going on, it gives them a lot of opportunity to be able to really just deliver that quickly, easily, and of course through a methodology that's curated out to the individual. We have a lot of fun things that are still coming up at NewTek, but the stuff that we have there, I think that it's whether it's a TriCaster, you're utilizing that to stream out your church, your school, your corporate environment, maybe live events that you have going on for new product offerings, being able to bring your finances out and broadcast out to your company. We're seeing so many different areas where the level of production has actually moved up, and we all don't want to have Zoom fatigue. Unfortunately, I think that Zoom is a wonderful company. But yeah, that has been coined now, and it's just one of those things where I'll just tell your viewers this: there is something about whenever you're in a room together, you're always looking around, you're seeing different things. We pull in just in our natural world all the various things that come around it. So multicam productions, when you're actually feeding something, we actually do as people, we're conversing through a visual medium, and it's not just about cool graphics, although we can bring fun things up with data link and things like that right now. It's also about being able to deliver a message and to think about the artistry and the creativity. And that's the thing that's what gets me up every day, to be like, okay, how can I make those creative people even more productive in being able to deliver out their messages out to the world?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Staring at a screen, even with graphics, it's not the same. When you have different camera angles, even when I do the little camera angle cut over to here and stuff like that, it's more engaging. People like, oh, well, look at that, he's saying something, it's real important. He's saying NDI November, this is the thing, NDI is the best technology in the world. But you're more engaged when you see that. You feel like you're with the person. You're not just staring at that Brady Bunch matrix, which we used to love the show, but we never thought it would be foretelling the future. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. This was great. I'm a little sad because normally this time of year I'm coming down to San Antonio, between Thanksgiving and the holidays to visit you guys for your Christmas party. It's a great thing you guys do. You invite some of your bigger customers and partners down. I'm going to miss that, but we will be breaking bread and having a drink again sometime in the near future, Mr. Waters. I'm confident that eventually we'll get through this and we'll be back to the new normal.
Yeah, I so much look forward to it.
Cool. Thank you very much for being on the show. That was Will Waters. Guys, let's go up to the next slide, which is what do we have coming up? We're wrapping up the whole thing. NDI November, once again, 7 webinars. We got through 6. We started with Dr. Cross talking all about NDI as the global vision of NDI. Then we had Dan Mail from Bird Dog talking about how the boys down under are implementing NDI in their cameras, converters, and other things. We had Raj from Panasonic talking about how Panasonic was the first big consumer electronics company to go all in on NDI. We had Shane from Wirecast not only talking about Wirecast and NDI, but actually doing us a little show how-to webinar on integrating Teams with Wirecast gear. We had George on yesterday talking about the Pearl 2 and how they're adapting to NDI and integrating NDI. And then today was Will Waters spending almost 40 minutes talking to us about, the NewTek products and how they relate to NDI. Tomorrow we're going to have Paul Richards on. And once again, as I said, we're going to be giving away that huddle cam on that raffle. I want to thank everyone for tuning into the show. This was Videoguys Live, NDI November special. Thank you for watching. Like us on Facebook. Love us on all the social media. And NDI, it's the future, and the future is now. This is Gary from Videoguys. Peace.
Videoguys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.